It's been 1 week since former President Jimmy Carter died at the age of 100 years old. The world knew him as president, but he was a husband, a father, the grandfather of 11, and the great-grandfather of 14. Joining us right now is one of his grandsons, Hugo Wentzel. Hugo, thanks for being with us again. We appreciate it, and condolences to you and your family.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, thank you, and good morning.
Good morning. We know that the world knew him as president, but you knew former President Jimmy Carter as Papa. What was your relationship like with him?
Honestly, we were pretty close. For being such a busy man, he was definitely I would say a lot of a family man. So as I was growing up, we would have like the Carter family trips every year, and I would go visit him in Plains because I live in Atlanta and he lives in Plains, which is like 2 or so hours away. And yeah, we spent a lot of time. He would teach me like hunting, fishing, all sorts of country stuff, and he was just a great grandfather overall, for sure.
You mentioned Plains. You were in Plains yesterday, a part of the motorcade,
Yeah.
as a part of the beginning of the funeral services for your grandfather. What was that like, seeing people lining up along the streets, not only there, but even when you got into Atlanta? So can you walk me through, from your perspective, what all of that was like?
Yeah, that was absolutely mind blowing. It was crazy. Like literally every block from Plains to Atlanta, like I said, like 2 hours even more, there were people with like signs or flags or just like holding their hands up or waving at us, and it was just like so heartwarming to see that he really affected like so many people because that was just like that small little part from Plains to Atlanta, but it was really great seeing that. It was amazing for real.
And I know that you all are probably getting condolences from not only in the United States, but worldwide. So how are you and your family coping right now? How are you managing all of these different messages and responses from people at this point?
Yeah, it's honestly really great to see, and just people in real life, people like online, like Instagram and TikTok. I'm getting messages all the time from people who have like their own personal anecdotes of stories with him, and it'll be someone just like a page long story about how he did something that really impacted them, and it's just crazy seeing the amount of people that's happening too. But also, if anyone wants to send me messages about him or talk to me about him, I respond to everyone and I read everything. And my Instagram is Hugo Wentzel, which is just my name, but it's HugoWentzel. And if you want to send me a message or anything or look at anything, because I'm going to post some more tributes and updates to the funeral there as well, if you guys want to see that.
Well, I can attest to that because that's actually how we got in touch with each other. So I really appreciate you responding
Yeah,
as well to the message that was sent out to you initially.
yeah, yeah.
How are you going to remember your grandfather? What kind of legacy does he leave to you?
I think he leaves an amazing legacy to me and to everyone. But to me personally, it was just amazing to see such like a great leader in my family unit, sorry, and in the real world because he's someone that's so good at like leading, but doing it in such like a benevolent and well-meaning way where he wants to teach everyone things, and you can just see like he has like the most pure intentions of anyone ever. So I think I'm gonna remember him as an absolutely amazing leader and someone who loved every single person in the world for who they are, which is great.
So let's piggyback off of that a little bit. You talked about him being a leader. What were some characteristics that you saw through your family of how he led your
Mm.
family? So can you walk us through some of those very specific moments that helped earn him that title of being a good leader in your eyes?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I think there's literally probably countless. I would say one thing that's like family oriented is he always like whenever we're eating, he would make sure we would say grace and he would like choose whoever like says grace. That's just like a normal like everyday reference. But he did like all sorts of stuff. Like when we went on trips and stuff, we would kind of all be with him and we'd be in like Nicaragua or like Panama or like Turkey, and he would always take the time to shake every person's hand on the plane and like say hi to everyone, acknowledge everyone. Like he was always kind of like moving in the exact way he thought he should, which was always just like inspirational. And we would all be there supporting him no matter what he was doing.
Were you ever the one selected to say grace?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
But we also know your grandfather for decades taught Sunday school at Maranatha Baptist Church. Were you ever in attendance for a Sunday school class? Can you walk us through what that experience was like, seeing your grandfather not only as a Sunday school teacher, but that some people would just even show up to church, that specific church, just to be able to hear a lesson from your grandfather?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think just because I was so young, I was like, oh, Sunday school, I would rather be like outside playing and stuff. But then once I got in there, like with him, you can just see like he is so passionate about like his religion and faith and stuff that he's really good at getting people into it. So even me as like super young, I think he was doing a really good job of like reconciling kids and getting them interested in that stuff too. And everyone just like wanted to hear him talk, so it was really cool. But it also was just like seeing my grandpa do it, so I was like, this is pretty fun.
Being a relative of a president or a former president, you're in the spotlight all the time, or a lot of the time. While your grandfather was being criticized or praised, how did he deal with both sides of that, even behind closed doors or just in the public eye? How would you label how he dealt with that? And can you pinpoint anything that stood out to you as he dealt with either criticism or praise?
That's a good question. I think with praise, he handles it. I would say with both, he handles them very gracefully. He's quick to like accept things as they are and to kind of forgive people really fast. So when people praise him, he obviously reciprocates with like extreme amounts of love and just like compassion for everyone. So I've seen like so many people come up to him and be like, "You changed my life. Like, thank you for helping so many people." And he just gives them like a huge smile and a hug, like a really like human to human connection. And then as far as people like disagreeing with him, I think he accepts that too because he knew that was kind of how life worked, and he never give up trying to change the world for the better, no matter what people said, just because that was part of his mission that he felt like, which was so important.
When was the last time, or what was that last conversation like with your grandfather? When was the last time you spoke with him? And during that final conversation, what did he say to you that maybe has stuck with you, things that you plan to carry with you for the rest of your life?
Yeah, we had a really long conversation. I think it was around a year ago before he got really sick and was unable to talk as much. But I met with him to talk about just like my goals in life and helping to meet my own personal goals. And like I was asking questions about how he was so successful and how he got around like setbacks and stuff. And I remember the two major points were the one thing that is always going to be about him and surrounding him, but was his faith was his main driver for like never giving up. And he also said to like never give up on the small goals on the way to your big goals. So if you have any setbacks to accomplishing like an everyday thing that you're doing that you need to do to accomplish the big thing, you just never give up and you keep going until you get that right. So he really took like never give up to the next level for like everything he did, which is super inspirational and something I try to apply to my life as well.
Beyond your grandfather, I know that you probably have stories from other members of your family, but specifically your mother, because your mother is your grandfather's only daughter who also grew up in the White House. What were some of those conversations like? What were some stories that she shared from her experience of being in the White House and just what it was like being the child of a president? And I know that you probably have had plenty of stories and discussions about things that she experienced.
Yeah, so one interesting thing about my mom, I would say, is that as opposed to my grandparents who are like very public and outspoken about like they're just kind of welcoming everyone and want to talk to everyone publicly. My mom was a much more reserved person, which I think is charming. But when she grew up in the White House, she was a little bit more quiet, and she was like known to like read lots of books during like big parties. And she loved her cat Misty Malarkey. And I think as such like a reserved person, she did still have a great experience in the White House. So I would say she was kind of like living in the White House as like a more normal person that was less like looking for the spotlight. But I think it worked out really well for her because she does have lots of like great memories and experiences with it, and she still references it from time to time. So I think it worked out pretty well. I think it's really cool.
That's so cool to hear. One thing I did want to ask you, a lot of people may know, but some people may not know, is that you were on the reality show Claim to Fame, and your grandfather was your celebrity relative. But what was interesting about when you left the show is during the reveal, arguably, that was probably the most emotional reveal, just of how you described your grandfather and the reactions from your castmates. I remember watching that episode, and people were crying. What was going through your mind as you were describing your grandfather, and then just to see that, ultimately, like that wholesome reaction from some of your castmates, and then the hugs that were given as you were leaving the show?
Yeah, man, I absolutely love doing that show, and everyone should definitely watch that show if they get a chance. But I would say on the show Claim to Fame, the thing that reminded me most about my grandpa is that he's so known for being so accepting and loving of every kind of person, regardless of like their background, their beliefs, what kind of person they are. He was so loving and encompassing of everyone. And I felt like in that house on the show, everyone in the house had such a different, like eclectic, unique background, but we all kind of came together. And I really made like such strong personal relationships with everyone on that show. So when I was finally leaving, it was kind of hitting me like, I really felt like my grandpa's intentions had kind of like, I had felt them and I had done a good job representing him at the end. So I got really emotional because I'm like, I just love my grandpa so much. I know he was old and was going to pass away at the time that we were recording that. And I just felt like he really had inspired me. And I felt like it was great to just love everyone on that show so much. You get to experience such like a different kind of world through everyone. And it was just so fun too. It was amazing.
Hugo, how do you hope people remember your grandfather?
Mm. I think he wants to be remembered as someone who is a civil rights activist and really cared for everyone regardless of their race, class, gender, or sexuality. And also as someone who was a really devout, like Southern family man as well.
Hugo, I'll end on this. You mentioned earlier that you plan to post more tributes to your grandfather. We've already seen
Yeah.
a few on social media right now, but you mentioned that about a year ago was when you had your last conversation with him.
Mhm.
If you had a chance to have another conversation with him, knowing that so much has changed in a year, what would you
Yeah.
say to your grandfather if he was still here?
I would honestly ask him more about what he thought about the political climate, just because right now it's like so divisive and interesting. So I think hearing his thoughts about it would be really something fun to talk about and listen to. Because I think he definitely has crazy thoughts about what's going on right now. So I think it'd be fun to hear more about that.
Hugo, you're fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining
Yeah.
us both this morning and right now. And again, extending my condolences to you and your family. We appreciate you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. It was great to talk to you. This is an awesome show.
You as
Appreciate it.
well. We appreciate you. Thank you. Take care.
All right, cool. Okay,
Thanks.
bye.
Bye-bye.